welcome everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and I have LD here with me. And you're watching Glenda's Dragon's Den. We have Steve Colbern here with us today, and he is a scientist, and he will tell us all about what he does and how he got here and what made him do what he did. Um, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Good. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, no
So, tell our audience a little bit about yourself so they can
problem.
get to know you.
I'm a chemist and material scientist with about 25 years industrial experience, and I worked on silicones, biotech, and solid gel science and carbon nanotubes. And I specialize in nanotechnology now, and I am a partner to the late Dr. Roger Leir. I worked with him from 2008 until 2014 when he passed away. And I was also patient 15 in his implant removal project. I had some alien activity, and they put an implant in my left second toe, and I went to see him. It was kind of a synchronicity that he only worked a few blocks from where I used to work in Camarillo, California. And he gave me a prescription to get the toe x-rayed. And uh, when I saw that there was actually something in there, it changed my life forever. Like I tell people, there's a heck of a difference between strongly suspecting that something like alien abduction is going on with you and knowing for sure.
Hmm. So, when you discovered that and it was removed, did you feel a difference? Um,
A little bit. It was very subtle. I mean, when they first put the implant in, I had a stinging sensation in the toe, and I had two puncture wounds on the lower part of my toe. And I put the toe under ultraviolet light, and there were two green spots corresponding with the puncture wounds. The puncture wounds healed within hours, and then the stinging pain became worse and peaked at about 4 days after they put the implant in. And it seemed to be the nerve cells growing into the device that was causing the pain. And after the fourth day, it kind of started backing off and getting less severe. But still,
mhm.
whenever I put any weight on that toe, it put like an electric shock type pain up my leg. And Dr. Lear took it out about 7 months later, and by then the pain was almost gone, but it was a pretty strange experience, to say the least.
Hmm. Now, when you before you took it out, and I know you've said the pain, but did you feel anything extra happening with you? Did you feel you thought differently or?
Well, people were telling me that I looked unwell when I had the implant in, and I felt like there was a subtle inhibition on my thought patterns, if that makes any sense. And I
Mhm.
felt like that was relieved when the implant was taken out, but it was very subtle. It was hard to tell. Um, but I think it's safe to say it was doing something to me, and um, it turned out to be a very sophisticated nanotechnological device. Dr. Lear gave me a couple pieces of it. It broke into pieces during removal, and I analyzed it with equipment I had at work at the time.
Mhm. And tell us about that analysis.
Well, I wrote a paper on the results, and it turned out to be a cylindrical metallic device about 3.5, 4 millimeters in length, and about 1 millimeter in diameter, and it was made of meteoric iron, if you can believe that.
Mm.
Um, the trace element pattern exactly matched a class of nickel iron meteorites called hexahedrites. And Raman analysis and SEM analysis also revealed that it had inclusions of carbon nanotubes inside it.
Hmm.
Uh, and The carbon nanotubes apparently acted as the electronics of the device because it was giving off radio signals before removal. Um, and These devices are usually connected to the nervous system. I think this device was, and like I say, I think the pain that I was experiencing was the nerve cells growing into the device, and it had a layer of bone-like or mother of pearl-like material on the surface of the metal, which had large quantities of calcium, sulfur, oxygen, and titanium and
Hmm.
phosphorus. And it was like a layer of a bone-like material. And apparently, it had most likely enzymes in it that caused the synthesis of this very tough electrically conductive gray membrane that Dr. Leir had seen before in several other implants. And apparently, the nerve cells grew into that, so that there may have been other chemical cues in the surface of the metallic portion of the implant that caused the nerve cells to grow. And they are proprioceptor nerves, which are not found in that area of the body. Um, they're nerve cells that tell the body what position it's in.
Hmm.
Is that what was powering the device?
Dr. Leir thought so at first. Myself and Dr. Kuntz, a NSA scientist or former NSA scientist that worked with us, thought that the device was powered by zero-point energy.
Hmm.
There's a magnetic field around most of these devices, and he thought that the magnetic field had a lot to do with the power source. And we had reason to believe also that the devices were putting out a lot more electromagnetic energy than we were able to detect. Most likely, they were putting out a type called scalar waves that's harder to detect.
Hmm. Okay. Now, you said you analyzed it. Now, are there other ones that you have analyzed?
Yeah, I analyzed like 5 other devices that Dr. Leir had removed from his patients that had not been previously analyzed, and they were all very sophisticated nanotechnological devices. The one removed from my toe was pretty typical, usually cylindrical and made of meteoric iron, but not always. The one removed from patient 16's wrist was more seed shaped than cylindrical, and it had some meteoric iron in it, according to my analysis, but it was mostly, it was like a mixture of like 10-20% meteoric iron mixed with the remainder regular iron, and it had carbon nanotubes very finely dispersed in the material, and it rendered the material extremely strong, um, to the point where diamond tools would not cut it. And
Wow.
carbon nanotubes, by the way, are the world's strongest known material, and people down here are trying to develop techniques to disperse them in metal finely enough to cause strengthening of the material. Um, and if you could do that, you could make metallic carbon nanotube composites that would be 10 to 100 times stronger than anything we have now. And that certainly seemed to be the case with this material. We had to finally use a high energy laser to cut it to see the interior of the device.
Wow.
It scared the heck out of the shop manager that diamond tools wouldn't scratch the thing.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Now that one particular, you had to use lasers. Did you have to use lasers for the other ones, or did you have to use lasers to cut through for the other ones, or just the one?
This was the only one that was that strong that
Oh,
we've seen. But so they do vary in design and type. Um, they're usually not that strong, but apparently some of them are.
hmm, no. And what other kind of information did you find out when you uh, opened it up? Or
Well, the carbon nanotube signal on Raman spectroscopy was very strong, so the concentration of carbon nanotubes in patient 16's implant was high, but we could not see any individual carbon nanotubes on electron microscopy, so that means they were finely dispersed, and the strength of the material bore that out. In order for it to be that strong, the CNTs would have to be very strongly dispersed in the material. Um,
mhm.
Individual carbon nanotubes. One problem with carbon nanotubes in that regard is that they bunch very readily, and it's hard to get single carbon nanotubes. And in this material, the material had been reduced to single carbon nanotubes or very, very small bundles and dispersed in the metal well enough to strengthen it in the extreme.
Now, how long have you been working with that? Did that precede your work with your former partner, or?
I used to work at a place called YTC America, and they were doing some carbon nanotube research, and I worked on it for about 8 years. And I started a company to uh, do that technology after that.
Okay.
What drew you to that?
I'm sorry.
What drew you to that?
Happenstance, I guess. I mean, the company I was working for wanted to work on that, and then it seemed like a synchronicity that the devices that one of which they put in my body used that technology. So
That's what I'm trying to figure out. If
it's a very interesting field. Once they introduced me to it, I was hooked.
They say the DNA has memory.
Yeah.
Well, it probably does.
So now these different patients, did you guys have anything in common? Or was it all?
Well, we're all experiencers.
Right.
Yeah, I think we had a lot in common. I mean, we had a lot of in common in that there's a lot of. It's hard to really say in a few sentences, but experiencers usually have problems relating to normal people or whatever you want to call them, and they have problems, concerns about their security, and have a lot of chronic anxiety and often have dreams of the end of the world and stuff that comes from the aliens. And well, you must relate to this if you're an experiencer yourself.
Yes. I was one of those luckier ones, though. That
A lot of them can't sleep near a window because that's where the aliens often come in.
right.
And let's see, a lot of them have problems with authority figures, don't trust people, and they often have an obsession with going to remote areas because that's programming by the aliens. It's easier for them to pick you up in remote areas.
Mm.
A lot of them have strange obsessions, strange hobbies, reptiles, exotic plants, that sort of thing, things that people aren't into. What, what experiences have you had that you would attribute to being an experiencer?
Well, I have been on the ship quite a few times, and on the ships quite a few times, and I've also have gone up there and helped others when they're up there. So they have used my energy, my calming energy, to calm those that are there, because they were meant to be healed, and when they're up there, they get all nervous and, understandably.
Yeah, a lot of people have fear of medical treatment because of the medical experiments done on them by the aliens.
Mm-hmm. No,
fear of bright lights, like at the dentist office.
Right. Yes, that's what I call like the hospital ship. But the hospital ships I have memories of, I should say, were usually to heal those that they abduct.
Well, their medical technology is quite impressive, I must say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I used to think that the aliens were maybe only a few centuries in advance of us. After seeing what they can do, I think it's more like a 500,000 years or more in advance of us. There's not much beyond their capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I had one incident one time where I was scheduled to go to Dr. Leir's office before the implant removal for a film crew was going to film some tests on the object before it left the body. And I was going through this canyon on the way to his office, and my car all of a sudden went out, and it turned out later that it had been zapped by some kind of electromagnetic ray that fried the computer. And they did it in an area where I couldn't get cell phone reception, so I had to hike like 2 miles down the canyon, and then called him, and he said he'd come pick me up. So he and the film crew came and picked me up. We took my car to a mechanic and went over there to his office. When we got over to his office, he pulled my X-ray out of a stack of X-rays, and he said, "Come over here and look at this." And he pulled the X-ray out of the sleeve, and it's hard to even wrap my mind around this, but the lettering from the outside of the envelope had been transferred to the developed X-ray film.
Wow.
When it was in a pile of about 100 X-rays. I'm not even sure how theoretically you could do that. So it's like they're showing off sometimes about what they can do. Another time, I was driving to Bullhead City with my son, and I said, "Look, there's a UFO up there," and it was really bright. It was like as bright as the planet Venus, and I pointed to it, and he said, "What? I don't see anything." I'm going, "How could you not see that? It's like incredibly bright." And he said he couldn't see it. And then down the road, he was seeing things that I couldn't see.
Huh.
So it was like they were showing off their technology or capabilities.
The first paranormal investigation I took my son to had an extremely powerful entity, and I purposely bought a 63 Chrysler, not an Imperial, not a New Yorker. It was right up there with New York, just so that they wouldn't fry the computer.
Newport.
That's what it was. So 63 Newport, so that there was no computer to fry. I figured it'd be harder for them to shut the car down, because we crossed the state to get from where we were to where it was.
Well, I think that might be a real good idea for experiencers that don't want to have their vehicles go out on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because I mean, they're not that hard to get. I mean, cars that still run on points and plugs.
If it's pre 1987 or so, it probably doesn't have a computer.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what I did it, and we were right in doing so, because we got about an hour out, and all of us in the car got scanned. And when we got to where we're going, I said, "I asked you not to tell him." And said, "Well, I only told him an hour ago." "Yeah, thanks."
So,
have either of you had relationships broken up because of this phenomenon?
I'm sorry we couldn't hear you.
Have either of you had relationships broken up because of this phenomenon?
I didn't. I actually got more. I am very lucky. I'm very blessed. Whenever I state anything about my experiences or whatever, people are more interested than they are not interested or afraid. They actually want to hear more, and they get closer to me because of that. So
I just asked, it tends to break up, especially romantic relationships, because the person that you're with will often remember something subconsciously, if not consciously, and start to distrust you after that, or think that there's something bad is happening because of you. And I just wondered if you had.
No, like I said, I've been very blessed. I've had a lot more positive experiences than I've had negative.
I've never lost a relationship, codependency here or there, but not a relationship.
So.
Well, I just wondered, and I know that this phenomenon is difficult in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Glenda also is able to communicate multidimensionally. So that also helps her work in between with the different entities and species, and kind of like an ambassador.
Hmm. An ambassador who?
No, he's saying that I am kind of like an ambassador where I can speak to the different species without having any repercussions. They usually,
Which species?
well, I have spoken to 4 different grays because people think there's only one type of gray, but there's at least 4. I've spoken to Arcturians. Um, I have spoken to Syrian, 1 or 2 of those. I also speak a lot to hybrids, which are here and right now living on Earth.
Yeah, my understanding is the Greys are an alliance of like 7 different similar species,
Mm-hmm.
and that fact, plus the fact that that all the species have different casts that often look different, is the reason why there's so many different reports of different types of aliens.
Right, exactly, exactly. And that's why, everybody uh, gets even more afraid to tell their story because people, you may see one that's green, for example, and they're kind of like a gray kind of like a species of gray too, but they see green, so they say green, and then everybody's like, "You're wrong," and so they get mocked.
All
Oh,
Greys
yeah,
in it, eh?
reptilian, it's a draconian.
So,
Well, I always tell people to be careful about telling these experiences to except for other experiencers. I recommend people tell these experiences only to other experiencers because if normal people hear this, they usually don't believe you, and if they do believe you, it's even worse because they often react with superstitious fear.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. Well, that's why I'm glad that it's starting to come out and be a little more popular, as they say, or it's talked about more because then this way some of the experiencers can actually feel validated and
You
not feel so scared and
know, the
She
government says
actually
it's
runs
real.
a
That
not-for-profit center.
craft are
She
real.
actually runs a not-for-profit center so that people that are feeling off because of these things have a place to go and feel welcome. And
Oh, that's great.
so what else can you tell us that you found when you were examining these?
Um, well, the implants do not produce any inflammation at the site of insertion, which is unprecedented. Any object that's put within the human body produces inflammation, and these do not. So
Hmm.
the aliens have done some kind of technology or some technique to keep the human body from doing any inflammation at the site, and that could be of tremendous use on organ transplantation.
Mm-hmm.
could be similar to a Reiki modality.
Hmm. Yes, that is very interesting because um, if there's a way to find out exactly how they do it, then at some point, any transplant, anybody who has a bad knee won't get inflammation there. I could see that being used in so many positive ways.
Yeah.
That knowledge, but
And I have reason to believe that frequent flyer experiencers, or people I call class 2 experiencers, that are trained and implanted by the aliens, um, usually have brain implants that enable the aliens to hear and see what they're hearing and seeing in real time, and
mm,
monitor these individuals 24/7.
mhm.
Uh,
Yes, yes. Um, and the idea is to see exactly how humans act and what they do in different situations.
Yeah, our whole lives are an experiment to them. They want to find out what we'll do under different situations and how we'll react to various extreme stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
each each class two experiencer is usually anyway picked from a bloodline they're interested in and genetically modified further to meet their needs, and they want to find out how that modification affects behavior and um, physiology in general.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, they do usually. And one thing I have learned that speaking with others is that when they do come back, they do have like an awakening moment of they remember different gifts or they have an idea of different gifts. They're able to always suddenly um, help someone cure their headache or whatever, or they are able to experience other people's emotions like an empath type of thing, even though they were not pre implanted or pre experienced, were that way. Um, there is also the idea that the um, blood ORH negative, I believe, is got something to do with that.
RH negative is often associated with experiencers. Experiencers have a two or three times greater probability of having RH negative blood, is my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that RH negative blood was genetically engineered in people back during Anunnaki days.
Mm. Yes, I've heard that too. Yes. Um, now, is it possible that the experiencer's DNA was altered in
Oh,
such a way?
it's very possible. I mean, I think that most of the DNA of class two experiencers, like I say, has been altered. I have no proof of that yet. I hope to get it soon. Now that
Mhm.
DNA analysis is becoming a lot more affordable,
Mm.
I think
Now,
we will get it pretty soon.
now, are you able to? You're putting all this information into a computer base, and or you just
Well, I don't have the information yet. I'm going by anecdotal reports of
right?
how people feel and the way they're not able to fit in and such. And it just seems like there's a number of differences. Our emotions are somewhat different than normals for one thing, and
Mm.
we seem to have faster reflexes and a different way of walking, and there's just a number of differences that I'm going to be putting in my book and that I'm writing.
Mm. Are you writing a book? Good.
Yes, I am.
Good.
Do you have
Good.
a working title or?
Yeah, the title is going to be Earthbound, a survival manual for Class 2 experiencers.
Very good. And when are you expecting to get this out?
Um, Probably by the end of fall, I would think.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Just in time for the holiday.
Yeah. So everybody could go out there and get that book for.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
I think
It's,
it'll have some unique information that has not been released to the public before now.
Maybe you can put a hefty discount for class two experiences and start a database.
Maybe
yeah.
so. It's not a bad idea.
Hmm. This way, maybe, hopefully, it would encourage other experiencers to come out and speak about it.
Yeah, come out of the closet.
Yeah, so kind of out of the closet, sort of. Well, it's very hard the first time you talk about your experience. So,
Particularly, it seems like a lot of them are chosen to come from very rudimentary, ultra religious or orthodox backgrounds, so it's not something that is easily talked about.
Well, yeah, I mean, my ex-wife and her family were very religious, and I found out the hard way when this started happening that I consider myself a Christian, but I found out the hard way that people that consider themselves hardcore Christians are not an experience
Well,
with friends.
Mm, mm-mm.
They
No,
believe in the devil and all this horse malarkey.
yeah, yeah. They say they're open and they're willing to hear everybody, but not
Well,
everybody
they're
is.
not.
No.
They're very close-minded, and they believe things that they say they're believing things that are in the Bible, but they believe things that are often not even in the Bible that about this stuff, and it's just a
Right.
very strange philosophy, and they're very
whose
one-way.
version of the Bible?
What?
Whose version of the Bible?
There's so many different versions too.
I don't know. It's mainly Protestants that are like that. I've seen they tend to think that any mention of life outside the earth is of the devil somehow. I'm not sure where they came to that conclusion, but
Yeah.
that seems to be what they believe.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who get into a fear-based moment, and they're put so much fear in them that if they even do just move a little bit this way, a little bit that way, forget it. They think everything is the devil, everything is evil, everything, and that's not what it is. And they
Yeah.
cannot fathom that those gods that were being spoken about, or those prophets or anything like that, could have been actual alien beings.
Well, they refuse to embrace a larger view of things, and they seem to be embroiled in some sort of a cult mentality. A lot of them, and they, like I say, they believe things that really, from what I've seen, aren't even in the Bible or the Christian religion, but they believe this stuff nonetheless. That anything to do with aliens or space is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that some Protestant preacher somewhere started this stuff for his or her own benefit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if they only went, I believe, to the Vatican and went into those locked away libraries, they would see the original writings.
Yeah, Catholics are a little bit more open-minded about alien stuff. I mean, I think the Vatican's believed in or had direct evidence of aliens for hundreds of years.
Yes, yes, they've had, or at least that's my understanding also.
But a lot of that was redacted.
Yeah,
But
yeah, a lot of that stuff was taken out of the Bible or the original writings, because how else would you not, can you control the masses, unless you give them fear. And, that's one of the things.
yeah, that apparently has a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm. So now, have you found anything else in um, your talks with other experiencers? Like, do they all remember? Do they remember when they were young? Do they remember when they were older?
Most people that are frequent flyers or class twos remember some things without regression, but it seems like we only remember at most about 1% on the average of what's happened, but most people remember a lot more under regression.
Mm-hmm.
One interesting thing I learned the first couple times I was regressed was that the reason you don't remember most of the stuff is not because the memories have been erased or they're not there, but it's because the aliens have set up a different personality track for you. And the memories are on that different personality track, which is similar but not identical to the one you use down here. It's kind of like the movie Total Recall, if you've seen that, where Arnold, they set up Arnold with a Mars personality, Quaid, and then his regular personality was Hauser.
Mm-hmm.
And Hauser couldn't remember anything that Quaid did, and vice versa, because if there's any connection between the two personalities, it's through dreams. And they also set it up so that if you do remember anything, it has a dreamlike quality to it, so that if you do remember something, you'll probably dismiss it as a dream.
Right, right.
So getting this book done, I'm sure, occupies a lot of your time and energy. What are
Yes.
your plans when that is complete?
Go on tour, I guess, to do signed copies.
Okay. That's very good, very good.
Have a
But
party.
now, are you planning to try to get more experiencers to talk to you to do like another book or?
Yeah, I'm always willing to talk to experiencers. I'm always interested in hearing more alien stories.
Hmm, good, good. So anybody that out there now can see this and know that you are a person that is safe to talk to and go to
Oh,
your.
absolutely. And if anybody, I do scans for recent alien contact and alien implants using Dr. Leir's techniques. And
Mhm.
if anybody wants to make an appointment for a scan, they can call me at 805 718 1118. Again,
Okay.
that's 805-718-1118. And um, we often find some very interesting things and give people a chart of what we found and any pictures of alien dyes left behind in the body. That's one thing that's very interesting is that when people are taken by the aliens, there's usually indelible dyes left behind on the body in various colors that take
Hmm.
weeks to wear off. The skin actually has to wear off to get rid of these things, and they fluoresce strongly under ultraviolet light, but are not visible in room light.
Hmm. Now, have you ever seen an experiencer with a puncture wound or something that just won't go away? Like if you went for blood
I've seen
test.
people with some pretty nasty puncture wounds from abductions, but they actually tend to go away quicker than normal, if anything.
Oh, okay. It's,
I've had needle marks before. I have a picture of a needle mark left on my wrist before they did a procedure on me in 2011, and I saw a lady one time that had about 100 small scoop marks on her shoulder, and another one with in my alien support group that had this was really pretty disturbing. It was a triangular puncture wound where the flesh was actually removed. The triangle, it was an equilateral triangle about oh 3/8 of an inch by 3/8 of an inch by 3/8 of an inch, and it was probably 3/4 of an inch deep in her shoulder, and the flesh had been just taken out.
oh,
And I've never seen anything like it, so
oh,
must have needed a
I
heck
don't want to see that either.
of a sample from her.
Ooh,
That took a while to heal, but
that's very very interesting. That's definitely something that I've never experienced or heard of.
yeah,
So, no, I know this one person who every once in a while a puncture wound shows up, like if they had taken blood,
yeah.
and then it stays there and may stay there a week, and then all of a sudden the person wakes up the next day and boom, it's gone, and it's like, oh, okay, they were there for a little bit, and it's just,
Well, bruises are even more common than puncture wounds from abductions. People wake up with bruises all the time from these things. And
mm,
when I was a kid, my parents used to say that, "Wow, Steve, you bruise easily," and I'd have these bruises and not know how I got them, and they'd go away pretty fast. And I now know that it was probably from abductions.
mm,
I didn't remember how they happened because it happened on board ship.
mm. Very interesting, very interesting. Um, in the lifestyle background, do they have
Sorry.
the you got it? Okay. The experiencers, is there anything in particular that they have common, like the type of work or?
Type of work. Well, I think experiencers tend to gravitate towards science and technology, and
Mhm.
computer science, things like that. But
Right.
I don't have a lot of data on that, but that's my impression.
Hmm. Okay. That's,
It seems you have a number of different support groups. Um, where did people get those?
Well, Barbara Lamb used to have a support group. I think she's closed that down now. And I think that Yvonne Smith may still have a support group called CERO, CERO.
hmm
And I'm not sure how to get in touch with her now, but I used to belong to both of those.
Right.
There,
Yes.
there are lots of support groups around the country. Those are the only two I know of offhand, though.
Okay. All right. Yes, I remember Barbara Lamb's support group. Um, she's she's kind of retired now, so
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
yeah. She's even the hypnosis side of it. She's taking a lot less on. It's she's getting older. A
Yeah,
lot, you
she's
know.
pretty old now, I guess.
Yes, yes. So it's she's kind of taking it slower now.
What about a .com?
Is there any support group that has a website?
I mean, it is
Oh, what
personal.
do you
Uh,
have?
those are the only two I know of offhand, actually. There's a number around the country. I know that, but
Right.
I'd have to research it. I mean,
Now, do you have a way besides your telephone number that people can get in touch with you?
my email address is s_Colbern, COLBERN at yahoo.com.
Okay.
s_Colbern, COLBERN at yahoo.com. And you can either email me there or call me on my cell to make an appointment for a scan or to talk about alien experiences.
And how long do these scans take?
Usually about an hour. Depends what we find. I mean, it's going to be longer if we find a bunch of stuff, and shorter if we don't find anything.
Right. Right. Okay. And now, do people have to be? I gather they have to be at your place to get the scan, or
Yeah.
okay.
You pretty much have
That's,
to come over. I may start doing them in my motorhome at some point. But yeah, right now I'm doing them in my house, and I do a UV light scan with shortwave UV that reveals the dyes, and
right.
take pictures of any dyes we find, and take a body temperature measurement because most experimenters have lower than normal body temperature,
Mhm.
and take a stud finder scan to detect conductive objects under the skin, and concentrating on any areas where people think they might have an implant, and then going over those areas with a Gauss meter to detect weak magnetic fields. And if you get a stud finder hit with combined with a Gauss meter hit, that almost certainly means there's an implant there, because these implants are usually magnetized with at least a 10 milligauss field.
Mm.
And I do a radio frequency scan to see if the person's giving off any radio frequencies, and these implants are sometimes giving off radio frequencies. Um, and if you get all three, then that's even a higher probability of it being an implant.
Okay.
And I also do a Geiger counter scan to see if any traces of radioactive material were left behind. And usually that doesn't show up anything, but once in a while it does.
Mhm.
And often ends up being pretty interesting. They can go to their doctor and get an X-ray to confirm the presence of any implants or prospective implants we find.
Mm. And then do you refer them to somebody, a doctor, to remove them, or?
Yeah, they can. I don't have a doctor working on the program right now, but I'm looking for one that might want to cooperate in this and participate in this. But they should, in theory at least, be able to go to a doctor and say that they have a foreign body after they confirm it by X-ray and that it is giving them a problem. They want it removed, and I would think insurance would pay for that. So
I would think so. Yes. It's very interesting.
what do you think the end game is? Do you see any direction things are heading in as far as you can tell that you would like to talk about?
Well, it's heading toward disclosure. I think the aliens have probably prodded the government to speed up the pace at which they're disclosing, and um, they they've already said a few years ago that the UFOs are real, and that's a huge step in the right direction. From there,
Mm-hmm.
it's a slippery slope towards full disclosure because they once you say that there's craft flying around in our skies that are beyond our technology, it's only a matter of time till people start asking them the right questions and leading towards the truth. And it's it's pretty. I mean, that's more than they were willing to admit before. I mean, they were always into saying that stuff that was clearly some sort of an intelligently directed craft was the planet Venus or swamp gas or something like that, and they've gotten past that point at least.
Well, you can understand the reluctance to break the illusion of power.
Yeah, they want to keep control, and especially control of the alien technology that might be gleaned from these sightings and crashes. And
Mm-hmm.
they've even had a cover up going on about Mars, about life on Mars. They've already found life on Mars, and they just don't want to admit it. There's
Mm-hmm.
plant life there at the very least, and a lot more water than they were saying. And I think when Elon Musk starts sending large numbers of people to Mars in 10 years or so, um, the secrecy will have to end at that point. They're covering up the presence of life on Mars at this point, in my opinion, because if there's life on the planet right next door, that makes the whole UFO intelligent life in the universe thing a lot more likely in the public mind.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
Personally, I believe that anywhere that microbial life is everywhere, and anywhere there's some air and some water, there's going to be complex life as well.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
And then it's how you define life. Are you defining life organically? Are you defining life as an intelligent entity in a different
No, I mean
dimension?
by life, I mean life as we know it, just something alive. I mean, if I want to say intelligent life, I'll say intelligent life. But I mean, I just mean that life, meaning in the broadest sense, animal and plant life.
Hmm.
And apparently, there's life as we know it, and I think there's some life as we don't know it out there too. Back in 2000, there was a red rain in the state of Kerala in India that turned out to be these large cells that were kind of a pinkish red color, and the rain was red because of these things. Apparently, it was from a comet that exploded in the upper atmosphere, and these things rained down for about a month,
Hmm.
and they were these cells that thrived under conditions up to 500 degrees Celsius, which is pretty darn hot, and they had no DNA.
Hmm.
They would grow, but they had no DNA. I mean, that's there was protein, but no DNA, and every other life form that we know of on Earth has DNA. But in order to grow at those temperatures, it couldn't have DNA because DNA will not stand up to those temperatures.
Hmm.
But
Okay. Very
look up
interesting.
look up the red rain of Kerala, and it'll come up. And a professor at one of the Indian universities, I think it was University of Bombay, named Godfrey Lewis, studied those organisms.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Very interesting. So now, are the experiencers that you have spoken to, do they all seem to go into, um, do they believe that they have gone to the exact same ship or different ships or?
No, I'm sure there are different ships. I mean, I've never met anybody that had any kind of reason to believe they were on the same ship. But
Hmm.
there's I have reason to believe the aliens do thousands of sorties a day down here to pick people up, and they'd have to support this level of abduction.
Mm.
And the motherships have they're like aircraft carriers. They have hangar decks that have hundreds of the smaller craft that they launch.
Right. Yes. It's and it's just overwhelming sometimes. The stuff that's been hidden from us all these years and all this time, and
Yeah,
there's
they
so
started picking up the alien motherships in orbit in the 1950s, apparently, and hired Clyde Tombaugh, who discovered Pluto, to investigate. And most of them are spherical and about a mile in diameter and have very extensive hangar decks. And
Mhm.
most experiencers probably have been on one at one time or another. They do a lot of these abductions in orbit. It only
Mhm.
takes these craft. They have such high accelerations, it only takes them a few seconds to get into orbit. Um,
Mhm.
and they have much more delta V or change in velocity capability than chemically fueled spacecraft that we might build. Um, in fact, our government has anti gravity technology, but it's classified. Um,
Mhm.
they've had it since World War II. I think they perfected it in the 1990s. And I'm sure it's not nearly as good as what the aliens have, but it's a lot better than chemical propulsion.
Mhm.
And, I think my personal opinion is rockets would have been obsolete in the 1990s if they let this technology out and declassified it.
Mhm.
Beyond a predisposition for some reason, is there a way that someone who wants to be an experiencer can create a better platform to be an experiencer?
They kind of have to be interested in you. They are interested in certain bloodlines. They're mainly interested in Celtic, Native American, and Germanic peoples, and certain bloodlines among those. But they're very powerful telepaths. They can hear what you're thinking. If you really want to be an experiencer, it might be worth a try to just think real hard at them and tell them why you want to be an experiencer. And they often come down and take samples from people that uh, they don't necessarily want to be class twos, but they're class one experiencers are people that they take a lot of medical samples from and just kind of catalog, and they're only abducted a few times in their lifetime. But most class two experiencers have been abducted hundreds of times.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so so yeah, there might be a way for them to come and abduct you once if you ask them. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out if anybody has experiences along those lines. I'd love to hear them.
Yes, that definitely would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because we only hear because they want us. They wanted to see our blood. They wanted to test us. They wanted to test our abilities. They wanted to test this. They wanted to, heal something or, you know, but never the other way around. Should be interesting. Very interesting.
We've got about 5 minutes left, and want to give you an opportunity in case we've gone down a garden path, but there's something else you want to speak to before the show's over.
Um, yeah, I'd like to tell everybody, I guess, that there's a lot of aliens on the moon. Um, the reason we never went back to the moon before the current resurgence of interest is because the aliens didn't want us there.
Hmm.
It wasn't because it was fake or anything like that. It was because they were told to stand down by the owners. And there's a large alien base on the far side of the moon, almost in the middle of the far side, where they do a lot of mining and spacecraft assembly. And it's in the middle of the far side so that they can approach the Earth Moon system without being seen by radar from the Earth. Using the moon's mass as a shield is pretty clever.
Hmm.
And Somebody's saying here to please share your email address again.
Yes, go
And
ahead.
I'll do that. It's S_Colbern, COLBERN, at yahoo.com. Again, that's S_Colbern at yahoo.com. And my phone number is 805 718 1118. And I hope that anybody who wants a scan or wants to or has information for me will contact me.
And I'm sure they will, because you definitely are a safe person to contact, and they will definitely be heard.
And we appreciate you staying with us because we realize that this is the third attempt we've had to get you on the show. We really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, no problem. It was really kind of a synchronicity that Glenda said she hurt her shoulder and had to cancel the show because I'd hurt my shoulder a few weeks before. And in the same way, I tripped and hit it real hard on the concrete. And you said that's what happened to you as well.
Yes, it's definitely very interesting. That's for sure.
There's a lot of synchronicities and strange happenings with experiencers. It's like it's kind of like we're all being manipulated in various subtle ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to really put your finger on it, but most people that are class 2 experiencers feel like they've been manipulated in subtle ways all their lives. I know I feel that way.
Mm. Very true. Very true. Very true.
Do you feel that way?
Sometimes it's, but I do get the little voices in my head saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. So yeah, in a way.
For me, it's always been best purpose. When I, get little nudges to go in a specific direction, like my thumb came off and the voice said, don't take any painkillers. And when I got to the second hospital, that the first hospital that I happened to go to sent me to because they knew this hand surgeon, and he said, yeah, it's not viable. And I said, this is a teaching hospital. And again, through the voice, they don't care if it stays on. They want to see how you do it, give them a show.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have the thumb. So, the synchronicities for me have always been best purpose.
Well, we've come to the end of the show. We really appreciate you being here today.
And if you want to come back, if something happens that you want to promote,
yes,
or something happens that you want to discuss, please, we're very grateful to have you. And I think everybody that is on enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, great.
All right. So, and hold on 1 second, and thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, and as always, have a great night, a great week, and we love you. Bye. Hold on.